Welcome to Body by Design. I'm your host, Blue Driver, a women's strength training and metabolism coach. I went from years suffering hormone imbalances, looking soft and bloated, to symptom-free and building muscle for a toned athletic physique. Since then, I've made it my mission to empower women to take control of their own health, hormones and body composition. So grab a cup of coffee and let's build your body by design. Welcome back, everyone. So here in Australia, spring has hit and the nice warm weather is starting, and I thought it might be a good time to talk about vitamin D. As in Australia or the Southern Hemisphere, we're at that turning point where people are thinking about protecting themselves from the sun, and in the Northern Hemisphere, you're going into those darker days, shorter days, harder to get sunlight, crappy weather, can't get out and walk, those sorts of things. And how critical vitamin D is on our health, especially as we move into our perimenopause and menopause years, but even with our menstrual health, like overall, I just know that a lot of you listening out there are in that perimenopause and menopause phase. And the importance of the sun and the role that the sun plays in vitamin D. I'm personally not a big supporter of supplementing with vitamin D just in place of the sun. There are certainly times when I recommend vitamin D. When a client initially comes to me, their vitamin D may be extremely low that we see on a blood test. They're exhibiting some of the signs, the brain fog, the fatigue, hair loss, migraines, aches, pains. A lot of that sort of stuff can be related back to vitamin D. So if we have a low vitamin D blood test and we're exhibiting some of those signs, sometimes the impact on our life, it is worth supplementing with vitamin D on a short-term basis to get your baseline up. It's not a supplement that I would recommend taking on a long-term basis. Let's have an understanding of vitamin D first before we delve into the sun and the misconceptions around the sun. So first of all, vitamin D is critical to our hormone health. It is literally it's called vitamin, but it is actually a hormone in itself, and it communicates with our thyroid and all our other hormones in our system, and helps to balance them. That is testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, your thyroid function. And without all of that, we're out of balance. So yes, it can help produce all of those hormones, but also keep them in balance. There's a lot of talk around estrogen, particularly in the perimenopause place, where people are talking about, oh, you've got low estrogen, but if we have balance, there's also the estrogen dominance when you look at the pro-metabolic space, and we get a lot of estrogen within our tissues that don't show up in blood samples. But what we're actually aiming for is balance, and going to synthetic hormones or replacement hormones, even if they're bioidentical, and like I said, supplementing vitamin D is supplementing with a hormone, still comes with its own risks. We know that there are risks with taking HRT in the form of estrogen. We know that there are cancer risks with that. It is well documented, well researched that there are consequences to taking estrogen. Don't ever take estrogen without supplementation of progesterone. Estrogen can go wild in the body. But again, if we come back to the basics of our lifestyle and our living, if we have enough vitamin D in our body, it's going to help regulate our hormones. It's also instrumental in our immune system. It's also part of our function where it helps build and maintain our bone density. Another thing that people worry about in perimenopause and menopause is the decrease in bone density, yet vitamin D is critical to that. And I would challenge a lot of people out there who are going on HRT that have they had their vitamin D checked first? And I'm not saying that this is the answer, but there's a lot of underlying things that we could be doing naturally without actually going to hormone therapy, and just correcting our lifestyle and nutritional balances to actually get what we need, and our hormones tend to rectify and reducing all the fluctuations that they have that cause so many problems in perimenopause and menopause. Vitamin D will also cause a lot of problems in infertility and just general menstruation. PCOS is linked to low vitamin D. If you suffer migraines, vitamin D is linked to, low vitamin D is linked to migraines as well. So there's a lot of functions in our body that vitamin D is important for. Now, vitamin D accumulates in our system, but it also drops down when we're not having it topped up. So if we were to take a vitamin D supplementation, which, you know, again, a lot of the medical field will just, and I deal with it with my clients all the time, they get a low vitamin, they want a vitamin D test. And I have actually had clients come back to me and say, my doctor wouldn't allow me to get a vitamin D test because he said, I'm probably low anyway, I should just take the vitamin. Now, I'll go back to, I'm not one for supplementing vitamin D on a long-term basis. I will do it if you're extremely low to get your levels up and get your quality of life a lot quicker. But we want to be looking to lifestyle and sun. It can be a good thing to use in the meantime to help you get feeling better while you put those better habits into place. And it also is takes a little bit longer for the sun version and food version to build up in our system. And maybe some clients need that vitamin D a little bit sooner. It's big on mental health as well. And we need to be considering those sorts of things. So I'm happy to do supplementation, but what we want to see is your starting level and get you to a finishing level. So we do therapeutic dosing and we get your vitamin D levels up, but we're checking again in 2 or 3 months' time. Where are they now? Do we keep going? Is that, and are you absorbing that vitamin D? Some people actually don't convert their vitamin D and absorb their vitamin D, which is another issue altogether. So having doctors just go, don't worry about the blood test and just supplement. And most of the time they'll tell you just to supplement with an off-the-shelf vitamin D. Quality is not great. It's usually about 1,000 IU, and that's actually not enough. That's a maintenance dose. It's actually not enough to bring it up. So there's a lot of miseducation out there in the medical field when it comes to nutrition, and this is one of those places. Now, when it comes to the sun, we actually need the sun on our skin and touching our skin to convert the sun's rays into vitamin D. And this is where majority of our vitamin D is going to come from. Yes, we get some from food, beef liver, dairy, you know, great eggs, great sources of vitamin D, but it actually isn't enough for our body. Our primary source of vitamin D comes from the sun. When it hits our skin, it uses cholesterol to convert to vitamin D. Now, not to start the whole cholesterol debate, but it shows you why cholesterol is actually a necessary function in our life. And more, doctors are trying to push down cholesterol levels. So we used to go from, I think our threshold of cholesterol was 5.8 or 6, or actually it might have been 6.4 at one stage. And then they brought it down to 5.8, and it's now for something that they keep pushing this level down, hoping that it's going to reduce heart disease rates. And it's actually not. You know, yet we're going on all these medications to reduce our cholesterol, and then people are vitamin D deficient. I can tell you now in Australia, there's no reason why anyone should be vitamin D deficient, yet we are. And I come across it day in and day out, people living in Australia that are vitamin D deficient. That's not even taking into consideration places like, I've got a lot of American clients that are further north in America, and they go through really dark, long days of darkness and crappy weather, and it's hard. People in the UK, and it is hard through winter months to actually get sunlight. This is where the accumulation effect of vitamin D and understanding that is critical, and understanding your baseline of vitamin D to begin with, so you know where you're starting from and know it before you go into winter. So we want the sun on our skin. And then we introduce here in Australia, we had the big slip, slop, slap campaign, which was slip on a shirt, slop on sunscreen, and slap on a hat. Great. Except the fear mongering of vitamin D, of cancer and the sun has got everyone scared, that no one wants to expose their skin to the sun. We're seeing people go out, they're painted white, their sunscreen is so thick, these massive hats and shirts and gloves, literally, and people not wanting the sun to touch their skin because we have been made fearful of the sun. Yet plants need the sun, animals need the sun, we need the sun. It actually plays a vitamin role in our vitamin D conversion, along with cholesterol, and then all of these things with our thyroid and our hormone. And we wonder why, along with many other factors, why perimenopause is actually now a big thing for women. And I am very big in advocating for women that they should not just accept, oh, yes, it's just perimenopause and you're going to feel like crap, which is the other extreme of doctors. You've got the doctors that go, oh, HRT, slap a patch on it and you'll be right, without doing any, what's your lifestyle like? What's your stress levels like? What's your nutrition like? They don't look at any of that. They just go straight to H. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum where they just go, oh, yes, it's menopause. You'll go through that. Menopause and perimenopause doesn't actually have to be that bad. Or problematic periods where you're heavy bleeding and clotted, infertility, PCOS, and there just doesn't seem to be an answer. Vitamin D plays a critical role in our hormone balance, and our lifestyle is what is reducing our vitamin D. I believe that perimenopause and menopause problems that we're seeing now is a build-up and an accumulation over time of lifestyle factors, excessive stress, lack of sleep, lack of sunshine, and lack of vitamins and minerals through a diet that is packaged foods, seed oils, low nutrition, lots of wheat and rice and things like that, and beans and fiber that doesn't have all the nutrition. And then you've got seed oils that also play a part as well. I know now that when I go out in the sun, after years of avoiding seed oils as much as possible and increasing my vitamin E, which helps counteract all that, I actually don't burn now. And as a kid, I used to just step out in the sun and fry. Like within 5 minutes, I would be burnt. I was so sensitive. And now I'm hard pressed to get a tan because I got rid of a lot of polyunsaturated oils out of my diet. But the Slip Slop Slap campaign has a lot to answer for too. We can actually correlate skin cancer, the rise of skin cancer, with seed oils and chemical-based sunscreens. When they were introduced, our rate of skin cancer increased. And we're staying out of the sun more and more and more, yet our skin cancers are coming out. Now, remove your seed oils. When you're out in the sun for a long period of time, I'm not suggesting you should not cover up, aptly cover up. Find a sunscreen that is, zinc oxide based and doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. I personally just don't use sunscreen unless I really, really have to. I will wear a long shirt and a hat, but here's the thing. I'll also spend 20 minutes, half an hour every day getting sunshine, and yes, out in the 12 o'clock light. I've built up to that over time. I'm not suggesting you should go out there and fry and get burnt because that's where damage is being done. But these slip, slop, slap, stay out of the sun, get under a tree between, I think it was like 10 and 3, all of this sort of stuff, and the scaring around skin cancer has made people shy away from the sun. And then you add in on top of that long working days in offices underneath artificial lights. We are not receiving the sunshine that our body, the actual physiological function of our body needs. It actually needs this. So I literally had someone just come to my door. I never get visitors, and here I am trying to do a podcast and I get someone come to the door and it scared me and I spilt my coffee. So I had to pause, but I'm back. Sunshine. So this, between sitting in offices, our lifestyle where we're not getting outside much, our fear of going into the sun is reducing our exposure to sunlight when our biological need as a human being, as a form of a living form of human being, we actually need sunlight to thrive and grow and all those critical functions. Now, what happens is summer, when the sun is out more, and this is why vitamin D is accumulative, and why when supplementing we need to be extremely careful. If you over supplement, it can be toxic. It will also, because vitamin D actually helps keep calcium within your blood to help build your bones and everything, if you overdo it in vitamin, I'm not going to get into the specifics and bore you all with it, but if you overdo it in vitamin D, it can actually leach out. So we don't want to be over accumulating in vitamin D because it can be toxic and it's not great for us. So what actually happens with sunlight, it accumulates because that's what it's meant to do. In summer, we have longer days, stronger sun, and more exposure to it. And we tend to dress in lighter clothes, allowing the sun to hit more parts of our body. And the vitamin D builds up in our system. Now, if we have a healthy balance at the beginning of summer, it will go to the high end, and should go to the high end of a healthy balance, because what it does is it stores that up for us for winter, where there is less sun, where we cover up, where the sun isn't as strong, and we deplete down because we're not getting enough sunlight to convert into vitamin D to keep our stores at maintenance or increase. Now, obviously, we don't want to keep increasing it because it's accumulative and toxic, but it's done like that for the seasons. Our body is built to meet the world, and we have seasons in the world. So we build our base up in summer. And if we get a really, really high end base going into winter, yes, we deplete it down, but we don't get symptomatic of brain fog, depression, migraines, hair loss, all these things that can go wrong with low vitamin D, because we're just getting to the low end of a solid baseline. So we come out of winter and we're on the lower end, but it's not really affecting us yet, to come into summer and start getting more than we need, and our body builds it again. But if we live in this world where the minute summer comes, we're doing slip, slop, slap, we're putting toxic sunscreens on our skin, we're covering up every single inch, and we're fearful of getting any exposure to any extent, we don't get a chance to build that baseline. So we might get some because, you are outdoors maybe a little bit more in summer, but you're not exposing your skin as much. So it doesn't get a chance to build up as high. And then you go through another winter and it depletes. So it depletes a little bit lower this time. So then the following summer, you're at a slightly lower base again. Now you think about when we're kids, what are our parents telling us? Get outside, get outside, get outside and play. So even if we're covered in clothes, we're still getting outside and playing a lot. But then as we grow up, get a job, sit in an office, get busy with life, busy cleaning the house, doing the washing, all those things that keep us indoors. Then add on top the slip, slop, slap campaign where we're fearful of getting out in the sun. And when you're kids, you don't think about that. But as an adult, you start taking that seriously. You go through this cycle where you might have great levels, but then you start going, oh, I shouldn't expose myself to the sun as much. So then the next summer, you don't bank up quite as much. And so every summer you're starting, because you deplete down in winter, you start summer at a lower and lower base. And before you know it, you are now depleted of vitamin D because you're just not getting enough sun exposure. So what do? Stop being so damn scared of the sun. Stop slapping chemicals on yourself. Build up slowly. Do 5 minutes. Roll your sleeves up. Take the hat off. Take your glasses off. Even reading glasses, we have anti-glare and anti-block, which is great. Blue light blockers, all that sort of stuff, which is great for all the amount of indoors that we do. But then we go out in the sun, and that also reflects the light from going into our eyeballs, so it affects our circadian rhythm and stuff like that as well. So definitely get your sunglasses and your reading glasses off when you're out in the sun. Start with 5 minutes, work your way up to 20 minutes, half an hour a day. If you work in offices, go sit outside in the sun and eat your lunch. Get that bright time of the day sun when it's if you get it when it's at its strongest, you obviously don't need as much exposure. There is actually a fantastic app which you can use, which is called, I think it's called DimD. And if you get a blood test done and you know your vitamin D levels to begin with, you plug that in, you plug your location in, and it will tell you the peak time. It will send you a reminder and give you a peak time of the day that you can get out in the sun. And so you've got that, so you know that that's when the sun is at its strongest. But also you can record when you've been out in the sun for sun exposure at whatever time of the day for however many minutes, and it will actually show you how much you're accumulating or depleting in your vitamin D levels. So if you're coming into winter, you want to be really mindful this winter about making sure you try and get as much exposure as possible. If you're coming into summer, use this. It's spring now. Use this time to start building while the sun's still not quite as strong. Start building up some resilience without all the sunscreens and covering up, and just get some exposure. Now, please use your common sense. I am not asking you to go out and get burnt. So disclosure here, do not get burnt. You do not want to build your resilience up by getting burnt. You are damaging your skin. But if you can start exposing yourself for 5 minutes at a time and then slowly building up, you can actually get to the point, I can be out in the sun for an hour and actually not burn now. So between building up, but also removing polyunsaturated oils, your skin will always burn so much quicker when your body is full of seed oils. I don't have that anymore. And also creams that I put on my body, I don't use creams that have polyunsaturated oils or chemicals in them. So when I'm out in the sunlight, those chemicals and those oils aren't reacting on the surface of my skin. I actually use Saturé products, so saturé.com.au. If you want a discount code, it's Lou Star, little asterisks, and that will get you a discount as well. Fantastic products that do not have any chemicals or polyunsaturated fats in it, and in fact are slightly protective, to the point that I find it hard to actually tan now with them on. I'm not naturally a brown-skinned person, but I don't burn either now with all of those, with that combination of things. But more importantly, have balanced hormones. And yes, there's more than sunlight and more than vitamin D to having balanced hormones and beating perimenopause. But these terrible symptoms of perimenopause, or maybe you're in your 30s and you're suffering PCOS and horrendous periods and painful periods. I suffered with endometriosis for many, many years. I don't have any of these problems now. And what did I do? I prioritized sleep. Where possible, I lower my stress. I've improved my nutrition with really easy to digest, nutrient-dense foods, and I get sunlight. And I strength train, because muscles are great for hormone balancing as well. But all of these things have benefits towards hormone balancing. I truly believe problematic periods and perimenopause symptoms, it doesn't just occur because you turned 40 or 45 and all of a sudden your hormones shut off. This has been a build-up over time of lifestyle, stress, lack of nutrients, preservatives, seed oils, artificial sugars, all of those sorts of things polluting our system, that our hormones are slowly but surely going out of balance. And then we hit a time of our life where we do get hormonal fluctuations, but they're already pretty out of balance, that when you go into that period of time in your life when you tend to start to drop off, and they don't drop off at the same rate, so your estrogen and progesterone are fluctuating in their ratios, it becomes really problematic, and some women are suffering terribly out there, and you can actually do something about it. And I've helped so many women through lifestyle, nutrition, and training. And part of that lifestyle is vitamin D and eating great saturated fats, because it produces cholesterol. Not saying that you're going to get high cholesterol, but it gives you the cholesterol that you need to convert the sun on your skin into vitamin D. They work in together, getting rid of those polyunsaturated fats and making sure you've got enough saturated fats and sunlight to produce the vitamin D that you need, as well as added dairy, eggs, those sorts of things, beef liver, that are all very rich in vitamin D in our diet as well. So there's many things that we can do, and there are many things that affect our hormones, but when it comes to bone density, immunity, and hormone balance, Vitamin D itself is a critical nutrient, and we need to get it from the sun so we don't cause any more problems. So I hope that has cleared up some of the scaremongering about, slip, slop, slap and stay out of the sun and don't ever see any sunlight. We really actually need it, but be sensible about it. People don't go out and go, oh, strength training nutritionist said, hey, get out in the sun and go and fry. We really don't want that because you are damaging your skin. So be sensible about it. Build up to it over time, get some better products on your skin. I do actually use the saturated products, and I believe they're coming out with a sunscreen soon. So I'm super keen on that, but there are plenty on the market as well that are zinc based and not full of chemicals. There's some tallow based ones which are fantastic. So have a look into all of that and be sun smart, not sun scared. Seriously, we don't need to be scared of the sun. It's literally the life force of everything. We are taught that in school. Plants, animals, everything needs sunlight. And so do we, without the chemicals and the cover up. So this summer, go and enjoy some sunshine, knowing that you're building up your vitamin D levels, keeping yourself safe and strong for winter. Now, if you found any of this information helpful, please take a screenshot and share on Instagram. We're all scared of the sun. Share on Instagram, tagging me at Strength Training Nutritionist. And I look forward to catching you in the next episode.